What is going on? I want to welcome you from half court today, being Wednesday, October 24th, Thanksgiving Eve. I, of course, am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my Marquette muscle, the man with the hustle, the corner three specialist, the machine, Troy Sergey. I like that. I just came up with that on the spot. I like that one, Troy. I don't know about you. It's better than that's better than calling you Karl Malone, wouldn't you say?
I think that's a lot better than calling me Karl Malone, Sean. I like that nickname. We'll have to stick to it.
Oh, there you go. I like it. Well, dude, it is good to see you, man. Oh my goodness. And happy Thanksgiving, dude. I mean, hey.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So you are up with the family for the Thanksgiving weekend. Your first episode we've ever recorded in the same state, yet we're still far apart.
Further apart, yeah.
Even further apart. Dude, I should have thought of when are you coming back down?
Coming back down to Grand Rapids or just down to the lower regions of the country?
When do you head back from the UP?
Yeah, Saturday morning.
Saturday morning? Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say at some point we're gonna have to do an in-person episode here at my place. That'd be fun.
That would be a great thing for our fans and listeners to hear, Sean, is a co-hosting podcast.
Yeah. Hey, it'd be good for our listeners, but Troy, it'd be better for my soul.
Oh, okay. I like that, Sean.
Hey, we have to be a little corny. It's Thanksgiving week. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty mean to you all the time. So I gotta balance in some sweet love. So, but anyway, dude, we have a packed show today.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about, and I know we have a lot to talk about and probably a little less time to do it because you got family and all that stuff that we got to focus on. But that's okay, because each and every week here on From Half Court, Troy and I, no matter what, do our best to take the time to talk all things NBA basketball. And after the events of this past week, how could we not? But if you like that, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share the podcast with your friends, as we are on all the podcast services that your heart desires. If you can follow me on Twitter at Sean Halfcourt, you can follow Troy on Twitter at Troy Sergey44. And please do, by the way, because Troy tweets some good stuff about basketball and all good stuff. So he doesn't get the recognition on there that he deserves. And quite frankly, daggone it, I don't want to stand for that. But anywho, Troy, let's not delay any further.
Nope. Let's get into it.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. That elephant, of course, being Jordan Poole scoring 30 points. No, I'm totally kidding.
My heart dropped a second there, Sean.
No, of course, we got to talk about Sunday, November 21st. Of course, the incident between LeBron James and Isaiah Stewart, or as I like to call it, the malice at the Pizza Palace.
Yes.
So if you have not seen the clip, or if you are living under a rock for whatever reason, with about 7 minutes and 50 seconds to go in the second quarter, there was a free throw that was being shot, and LeBron and Isaiah Stewart were lined up on the block next to each other waiting for a rebound. And, you know, with our good old handy dandy Isaiah Stewart right down there on the block, he's going to be pushing for a rebound each and every time. So naturally, when a free throw like that happens, most of the times players just let the Lakers get it, and then they just go back up the court. That's just generally what players do. However, Isaiah Stewart is not every player. So naturally, that being the case, Isaiah Stewart was kind of digging into LeBron a little bit, trying to get around him, going for the rebound. Nothing that I saw that would be anything egregious, by the way. Nothing that warranted the contact from LeBron. Because then LeBron swings in the direction of Isaiah Stewart, at first looking like he's just trying to shove him off a little bit. But in reality, we see in replay that LeBron takes a fully cocked fist and smacks Isaiah Stewart right on the eye. And from there, all hell broke loose. At first, Isaiah and LeBron had a little bit of a tie-up. You could tell things are getting a little tense. Words are being exchanged. But it was when Isaiah Stewart not only saw the blood running down his face, but tasted it too, because it got all in his mouth,
right.
that he just lost full control. Because there is just something about when a man specifically tastes their own blood that brings something different out of you. And so we saw that out of Isaiah Stewart, and he was ready to go. He wanted to fight, and he wanted to fight badly. And so he ran over
Bolted.
bolted and ran over some of the Pistons training staff. By the way, my favorite thing was, I'm not sure if you saw, Troy, but that clip from the upper bowl where it shows the angle of Isaiah Stewart. Did you see the security guard? How he's just like, stop.
Yeah.
Like he's not even moving. Like he knows he can't do a dang thing, even if he wanted to. So that is the best way to describe it. Now, at this point, Isaiah Stewart has been suspended for 2 games, and LeBron James was suspended for 1. And so with that, Troy, I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
First, I want to start with you. What was your takeaway that night? How did you feel in the moment? How did you feel leaving the moment? What stood out to you?
I was just really attached to the situation. I was like, I want to know every single detail about this, because this is nuts. Like seeing how much Isaiah Stewart was, pushing over, like you said, the training staff, but also security guards and stuff. It reminded me a lot of Malice to Palace, not just because of the on the court drama, but John Mason himself, when he's like, fans, please stay in your seats. Do not come on the court. Do not throw anything on the court. And I actually have one of my really close friends from high school, Brady Abuzelman. He was actually at the game itself. He said at one point, they said, fans, do not come on the court. We have top security. If you throw anything on the court, we will find you. So that's kind of crazy, right? Because we know how things went with the real Malice at the Palace. And
they were on top of it. They were absolutely all the credit in the world to Detroit security, Detroit staff, everyone that was on hand that night, because they clearly showed they were some of the top class in the league as far as how they handled it. Because, as you said, the Malice of the Palace is something we never want to see again. So the fact that they were able to avoid anything like that at all, because let's be honest, it got a little dicey there for a second. It got pretty dicey. So,
and I think one thing too that I got out of that was at the end, when Isaiah Stewart finally got in the locker room, he broke away from the 2 guys that were holding him back, and then sprinted, you could see, into one of the sides, and they were afraid that he'd pop out at one of the other sides and then go after the Lakers bench. So that was kind of scary.
So Corey Joseph, he actually had to run in the tunnel to stop Isaiah Stewart, because he was going to try and run around and go to LeBron through the other way. Like he was, he wouldn't stop. And honestly, a lot of that comes from, I think comes from his background. I mean, he was into boxing growing up. He grew up in Rochester, super blue collar neighborhood. And, just the culture that he's from, and what he brings to the table. I think it was just a very, very, very bad situation all around. Now, here's what I'm going to say. LeBron's not a dirty player. I tweeted that night, LeBron's a dirty player. I don't think he's a dirty player. But what I will say is that it was an objectively dirty play. I think he did not want to do that. Like, I don't think LeBron wanted to cause damage, but I also don't think he wasn't completely unintentional and blissful as he was pretending to be. I mean, listen, his fist was cocked, right? His fist was closed. His fist swung in the direction of Isaiah Stewart. And it just so happened to go to his face, which is, especially the eye, is a pretty, he was looking at Beef Stew. And so he very well could have avoided the face, in my opinion. But he didn't. And so to me, what stands out of this, obviously Beef Stew overreacted. I mean, let's be honest, But also I loved it as a Pistons fan. Part of me absolutely loved that attitude that was back, and that fire in that, and just not that attitude of, you're not just going to scratch. You're not going to beat us down in Detroit. Like, we're going to fight back. We're going to, that this is Detroit basketball. We're tough. You know what I mean? So from that standpoint, absolutely loved it. Now, I think there's implications here that, of like where we go from here, what this says about, Isaiah Stewart. Listen, I don't think this defines him at all. I think this is just one night. Now, I will say, objectively great memes, memes,
some funny stuff,
great memes. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm loving the memes. But I definitely think, I tweeted, only LeBron can punch someone in the face and somehow come out the victim. Yeah. And I think that's where my head is, because I think, if we're to be honest, if it was any other player in the league, like, let's say it was flipped, right? Let's say Isaiah did that to LeBron, at least a 5-game suspension, at least.
Yeah.
And, and granted, I think some of that is, LeBron doesn't have a history of doing that, but yet again, neither does Isaiah Stewart, not like that. Right. So I think, in my opinion, either they both should have been suspended for 2 games, or neither of them should have been suspended, because, yes, even though Isaiah did elevate the situation, you can't give him more of a suspension for reacting to being punched in the face, because he was merely reacting to what was being done to him. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that's hard for me to swallow out of this, is just the fact that we clearly were seeing a guy that got very upset, and rightfully so. I mean, it was a cheap shot. Let's just call it the way it is. It was a cheap shot. Right. So to me, a bit of a double standard is at hand. I think it's a double standard we've been aware of for a while as basketball fans. Because let's just call it the way it is at this point, right? I mean, the stars get preferential treatment in the NBA. Shocker. I'm glad we're sitting down for this. You know what I mean? If you want case in point, Troy, do you know the sleeping arrangements at the bubble at all?
I didn't know.
So a lot of guys slept in very small hotel rooms, right? LeBron had a freaking suite. He literally had I think he had the biggest suite at the Disney resorts. Like, and Damian Lillard, same thing. He had a suite as well. Like a lot of these guys, and granted, if you're going to allocate it to your stars, you know what I mean? That makes sense. But it's just, I think it's just, especially as a Detroit fan, when it is that Detroit versus everybody attitude, watching someone from Detroit get misrepresented, mischaracterized, and deemed a dirty player for that. That's when my Detroit versus everybody mentality kicks in and says, oh, we're coming for you guys.
Yeah.
Like, in the next couple of years, we are coming for you guys. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where my head goes. Mm-hmm. So hearing that, like, is there anything you want to add? Anything you object to? Anything what do you think about LeBron in this situation?
Yeah. So I think I want to give him the benefit of the doubt in a small way, because, it sounds like Anthony Davis said that, when he did that, he tried to apologize before anything escalated. And I think too, what I heard is that after the game, LeBron searched hard for Isaiah Stewart's phone number to try to call him on the phone after and apologize.
Right. So,
go ahead.
My only rebuttal, I'm sorry to interrupt. I feel like I do think he was genuine in wanting to apologize. I mean, it sounds like he was going out of his way to apologize. And I'm sure they've talked. I'm sure they have probably exchanged numbers at this point. I'm sure either they will have already talked, or they will talk on Sunday night when they play at the Staples Center. And that's a whole other story, by the way. Mm-hmm. But I think the thing to me there is, on the court. Not that I don't believe that his apology is legitimate, but that doesn't mean that he didn't mean to do it. And it also has another motive there, that when he's apologizing on the court, it's like when you do a flagrant foul, but then you try to go and reach and get the guy up so you don't get ejected. You know what I mean? It's almost like you're trying to compensate so you get a flagrant 1 instead of a flagrant 2. To me, I think there's a little bit of gamesmanship in there. I mean, listen, it's LeBron, you know what I mean? So but
yeah, and I think with that too, I get the fist being cocked back and I get the elbow, but that he didn't necessarily have a facial expression with that either. He wasn't like, he was just kind of more like kind of thing. I don't know. I want to say I definitely had maybe intentions to maybe like get away from me kind of thing, but I don't know if it was intentions to hurt or even bleed. With that being said, I do think no matter what, it happened, and I support the 1 game suspension for LeBron, and really the 2 for Isaiah Stewart I thought was fine too, because there's a way to react, but when he like pretended, oh yeah, I'm fine, and then he bolted back and more security guys fell to the ground, and our assistant coaches were there too. It to me it just, and I think put yourself in that game, as a kid, at a fan or in attendance as a fan. And I think that doesn't really set the best, image or role model stance. So I think Isaiah Stewart getting a little bigger penalty than LeBron is fine. I support 2 games, 1 game. I think the right choice was made fully. I have no disagreements with that.
I mean, I understand. Yeah, but like, I mean, I understand the argument. Obviously, it's not the best example. I mean, we all can agree on that, right? But I mean, at the same time, I mean, like in a lot of ways, a lot of these guys really listen. First of all, if we're looking at actions that make players not role models, yes, that was a very direct, in your face example. But we can go down a list of why a lot of players in the NBA should not be role models to any children. And even with that incident, I would still pick Isaiah Stewart to be a role model to my kids over 80% of the guys in the league. At least 80%. That's how highly I think of Isaiah Stewart. Granted, I am very biased in this situation. I'm going to admit that. Okay. But I think, I definitely understand that. It's just at the same time, you can understand though how a 20-year-old young kid who gets a cheap shot. Now, granted, going forward, this can't happen again. Not like this.
Correct.
This cannot happen again because he is too important to the team. He is too important to the city. He is too important to the people around him. And so, and the other thing is he can seriously hurt somebody.
Yeah, I would not want Isaiah Stewart after me, Sean.
Dude, he looked like Lawrence, like someone made the comment. He looked like Lawrence Taylor. You know what I'm saying? Like he 6'8", 250, built like a jackhammer. Like that guy is ferocious.
And I think you have to look at, the possibility of what if there was no security or coaches holding him back? What would he have done to LeBron James, Sean?
Oh,
that's another important question.
Oh, he would have knocked him out. Absolutely. Absolutely. But the good thing is that they were there. Obviously, like, listen, at the end of the day, I don't think he was going to get to LeBron even if he wanted to, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, thankfully obviously, thankfully we are in a situation now where, we have the luxury of living in a post Malice at the Palace world and knowing how to respond and how to react and how we can, what we can do as fans, but also what they can do on their end to prevent stuff like that happening again. Mm-hmm. Now certainly I will say my least favorite thing of the whole thing, or I guess the funniest aspect was Russell Westbrook putting his fists up, looking like the Fighting Irish logo. He looked like an idiot. And I honestly, I want to make a video about this soon. It might be next week, but the NBA has a tough guy problem, and it is bad. Like, when I say tough guy problem, I don't mean that there's a lot of guys that are tough guys. There's a lot of guys that are pretending to be tough guys. And it is blatant. It is stupid. It's just, yeah, it's freaking insane. So, I think at the end of the day, like, listen, Russell Westbrook, he might have put up his fists. It was obvious he wasn't throwing a punch, even if he wanted to. He wasn't going to throw a punch. If he got close to Isaiah Stewart, he would have backed down 100%. You know what I mean? Let's call a spade a spade. So I think for me, that's where my head goes, is just, all right, what are we doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think Isaiah Stewart is a tough guy.
Oh, Isaiah Stewart. No. And that's kind of the point, is like, I kind of want to circle it around this incident and be like, man, we have a fighting problem in the NBA. No, not this guy. This guy. Yeah. And just point to all the guys that, like, how tough they act when it's like when you look at someone and go, hold me back, bro, hold me back. Yeah. And you're just like, oh, I'm going to, it is such a pretending thing, dude. And it's like, cause if you really, like, just take the 10 seconds to analyze it, they all look stupid.
Yeah.
And so, listen, if there's a guy in this league that is about that smoke, it's Beef Stew.
Yeah. And I really appreciated you on Twitter going into that chat room space after and talking about, I don't know if you brought it up or someone else, but they were talking about how there's very few players in the NBA who would have done what Isaiah Stewart did. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, there's very few guys who are actually tough enough to stand for themselves and up for themselves in that type of capacity. I think of him and Patrick Beverly. Someone said the Joker. I don't know about that, but
listen. I mean, listen, man. His bro, like I know, like, his brothers are, like, super tough guys or act like they're tough guy. I heard that, and, like, there were people like, oh yeah, he's about it. Maybe I have to do a little more research. Listen, all I've seen of the Joker lately is that punk move he did on the back of Markieff Morris, where he just shoulder checked him in the back. Yeah. To me, that doesn't look like a guy that wants to fight. So right. That's just me. Now, I will say, if you have not read it yet, first of all, Black Friday special. We're not sponsored by The Athletic, but I will say, James Edwards III is one of the best beat writers we have in this league. His writing is phenomenal. His coverage of the Pistons is always poignant, and I generally agree with everything he says. He just tells you how it is, but he also loves to spotlight the character of the players, and really brings you down to a deeper level of getting to know him. And he did a story that night on November 20 that came out technically like early in the morning, November 22nd. And it's called The Misconception of Pistons Isaiah Stewart. Altercation is no reflection on who he is. And it is an absolutely great story. I'm going to link to it down in the description below. I think it's going to be I think The Athletic does a special where it's only like $1 a month for a year of The Athletic for Black Friday, which is pretty incredible. But I mean, we're not sponsored by them. I'm just saying that because I'm a huge James Edwards III fan. Shout out to James. And of course, the one time I met him and called him Jalen in real life. That is a great thing. But anyway, with that, Troy, I think we covered it pretty well. Is there anything? Yeah. Is there anything that, if there is anything I do want to talk about with it, is that I think if there's any positive thing to take from it, is that I haven't seen that kind of fire from a Detroit team since 2007 or 2006. It's been about 15 years since I've seen that from a Pistons team.
Right. That much energy and charge. And I think, we'll never probably see a bad boys again. You know what I mean? Like a true bad boys, but we can at least bring back the culture. You know what I mean? And I think that's exactly what we're doing with this. And yeah, I saw that too. I really did, Sean. And I think we're bringing back that true winning, tough, real tough guy mentality, I think. And I think that might send a message to the rest of the league like, hey, playing against Detroit might be a little scary. You might have to actually stand your ground. You're not going to be able to take advantage of them in any way, shape, or form. You're going to have to fight every play.
It's by no means an off night. It is by no means an off night.
Okay, so you might get an off night, but not with us. Or Houston. Houston, you might get an off night. But not with
Houston, Orlando, you're getting an off night. You're absolutely getting an off night. You can go to Disney World. You can go play with the kids. You can do whatever the heck you want because, man, oh, man. By the way, Troy, may I add, Hamidou Diallo.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about him really quick.
Big time. I want you to too. Go ahead.
So he played the best game, arguably, he had as a Piston against the Lakers that night.
Fire.
Fire. Yeah. The way that he's responded after that situation in Cleveland. We didn't touch on it much here on the pod. I think we might have maybe briefly mentioned it, but I said this in a Twitter space the other night too, which by the way, I've been having a blast doing those. I would love to at some point maybe get enough of a following to where I can host my own, but for now, I just don't think I'd have that yet. But what I will say is, man, oh man, Hamidou Diallo, obviously that incident in Cleveland, really upset about not getting play time, gets brought back by Troy Weaver to the locker room after that incident. And he has responded. And listen, people were saying, Hami's done. He's not playing again in Detroit.
No way.
Here's where I'm going to give Dwayne Casey his roses. He knows what he's doing. He brings him back into the fold. He gets him to play hard. He gets him to play for his job. He gets him to respond. And listen, you cannot, and this is, I will just beat this drum all day long. You cannot be given playing time in this league. You have to earn it. And Hamidou Diallo is actively earning it.
Yes, absolutely, Sean. And I think what I saw with him was an absolute spark. It was almost like your phone is on 2%, right? And you plug it in, and before you know it, it's at 30, it's at 40, it's at 50. Man, it's a bad example, but you know what I mean?
That's just a faulty battery. Like that's you got to get down to the Sprint store and get something fixed there.
But he just took off. Like that was such a fun game against LA, and even tonight against Miami too. He had a good charge. So
right.
What I saw with Hami, I was really impressed with, and I think he just looks like a different player out there too, even from last year.
Yeah,
he's a guy. He's like the microwave. Maybe not with his shooting, but just
definitely not with the shooting, but with his energy.
A spark. The energy, the spark. You even said on the podcast or the space a couple of nights ago, you said there's either two things that have to happen. Either one, he has to play with the same type of spark every game, or he has to develop an outside shot. If he's not able to do either, then I don't think he has a place on the court. But he's doing the first one very well. And with that, I have no problem seeing him play 15, 20 minutes a night. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, and I will say, we're finding a duo off the bench that might be one of the more fun duos that I did not expect, which is Hami and Josh Jackson.
Yeah, he had a nice 3 tonight too in the corner, man, Josh.
When they're on the court together, it is a weird lineup. It should not work, but it does.
Yeah.
But it does. And now listen, I will say they are the same type of player that either they are adding to your cause or they are depleting your cause, and there is no in between. But man, there was just some of the hustle plays that Hami got. Just listen, man, let's slow down. Let's give Dwayne a chance. Because listen, first of all, I've also been seeing like sports books and people putting Dwayne Casey as like currently he's the highest. He has the he has the best odds to be the next coach to get fired. Which they solely base that off of team record.
Yeah. Right.
If you really listen to like what Troy Weaver says, and I mean, also they gave him an extension, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, literally at a point last year, Troy Weaver called Dwayne Casey the best coach in the world for this situation. So, and I also said in the Twitter space, and I will keep saying to anyone, the day that I will accept the argument that Dwayne Casey should not be the coach for this team is when you show me who should be the coach for this team.
Right.
If you give me an example of a coach that fits this team better, where we're at, where we're going, where we want to be.
Yes, exactly.
I am all for it. But for right now, there is nobody in this league that fits this culture and this team and what we're trying to do better than Dwayne Casey, because he is the best in the world at player development. That's a good point,
Sean, because I think if you take that argument away and you look at your original statement of, the most likely to lose his job based off of the win-loss record, you have to look at other scenarios in sports, not just basketball. When a coach does get fired for the win and loss column, it's because it's not the right fit. That's why they're losing games. It's because it's not the right fit.
Like in Sacramento with Luke Walton.
Exact. Perfect situation right there. Example. Or the Lawrence Frank years, right? With the Nets, and then the Pistons, a different story. But it's the same thing. You fire a coach because it's not the right fit and the results are proven to show. In our case, it is the right fit because we have a bigger and broader goal towards the end.
Not only that, but also if you look at how we've been doing of late, significantly better.
Significantly. That Sacramento game was honestly a fluke of how bad we played because we've responded very well. We haven't really won a game. We won the Indiana game, but the last 3 have been losses, but I'm okay with them.
James Edwards III just tweeted, the Pistons are exactly what most thought they were. A young team that plays hard with some interesting pieces, the direction, and without some core pieces that will eventually be added when the books open up. I'm sorry if you expected something else. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
That's exactly the case.
Yep. So again, follow James Edwards on Twitter, subscribe to The Athletic, and support good journalism. And so with that, speaking of Luke Walton, let's touch on that real quick. Now, the Sacramento Kings decided to call it quits with head coach Luke Walton after a really, really rough start. A franchise that is looking to perhaps make it to a play-in tournament, that is looking to take some of that talent they have, and De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton and Davion Mitchell, and really trying to turn a corner. And it is evident that is not happening. It is evident that it's pretty evident if you watch the Kings that he did not have the locker room. And the fit there, it was just not right. And so now with Luke Walton being gone, at this point, the current interim head coach is Alvin Gentry, who Alvin Gentry is a really good coach, in my opinion. Is someone that gets passed up on opportunities way too much. Listen to some of the teams he's coached, right? He was in Miami for a season. He was in Detroit for 3. He was in he was in the Clippers. He was on the Suns. He was with New Orleans, which I think he was fired prematurely with the Pelicans. I think he has a genuine chance to earn this coaching job.
Yeah.
And also, if you're talking about a perfect interim coach, Alvin Gentry is the guy. So, I think they're going to be set up for success there. Now, they did lose their first game post Luke Walton, but they did only lose by 8. Now, Troy, let's put on our psychic caps a little bit. And this isn't a Kings related question. This is I want to know, Who's next?
Ooh.
What coach, when you look at the landscape of the league, what coach do you think is on the hottest seat? I'll go first because I'm springing this on you.
Yeah, we might be on the same page here. But go ahead.
1, 2, 3, Steven Silas.
Oh, not quite, but go ahead.
Who are you going to say?
Honestly, Sean, Frank Vogel.
Whoa. Okay. Whoa. All right. Wow. All right. So let's get to Steven Silas in a second, because I like yours way better from a fascination standpoint. Wow. All right. Let's dive in. What makes you say they're gonna fire Frank Vogel?
Just results, man. I mean, this core isn't working together. It's just not. I think maybe this goes against my argument that I made earlier about a coach and the direction. But I mean, I think they're in a win now mode right now.
I think it's consistent with what you're saying though, because you did also make the point that like you really only make a move when it's evident that the fit isn't there, right? Mm-hmm. And it sounds like your argument would be that the fit is very much not there. Sorry, I heard a snapping noise somewhere and I didn't know what that was. I'm like, did something break here that I don't know about? But I think we're good.
And the fit to me isn't there because of your core not being, in my opinion, the best way to build around a championship team. Putting a lot of old guys on the court and just the direction that they have right now is not, to me, a win now mentality. Like I think the organization is trying to put obviously on the court. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, listen, I think Frank Vogel's being put in a very tough situation.
Of course.
I think if there's a place to be pointing, I think you look at Rob Pelinka in the front office. Because listen, you had 2 years ago, you had a championship roster. They could have just brought those guys back. They could have played it safe.
Yeah.
And they could have run it back with the roster that won a championship. Right.
Correct. Yeah.
And instead, they made the decision to try and improve their roster. And the conception was that it was going to make them better. Right. But sometimes you really just, it is such a adage that is so stereotypical, but it is there for a reason. And it is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so if I'm looking at Rob Pelinka, why fix it? Why move on from an interior force like JaVale McGee and bring in Marc Gasol, who clearly was on his last legs in the league? Even though you thought he could have stretched the floor, let's be honest, it was really relying on Anthony Davis playing the 5, but also like, even then, do you really want Marc Gasol playing the 4? Like how does that work? You know what I'm saying? And it didn't. Montrezl Harrell, he was a shell of himself for the Lakers. He just wasn't a good fit. But anyway, all right. So anyway, sorry, ESPN was open because I was trying to look at their stuff and there was an ad that was like, I was like, that scared the crap out of me. But anywho, so you have a situation now where you have a roster that on paper, I have to say, is one of the worst contending rosters that was put together in the history of the league.
Out of desperation.
And I'm going to be honest, I feel vindicated as hell. I feel extremely vindicated because I told you, if like sometimes it's not that hard. You know what I mean? It really isn't. I mean, listen, let's go up and down this roster because again, it's just, like you're not getting anything out of a lot of these guys, and it's just not fitting well at all. I mean, you bring in Kendrick Nunn. He's out for a while. Anthony Davis is already dealing with some injury stuff. Trevor Ariza, I mean, he's injured already because he's old as crap. LeBron just got back from 2 weeks of injury. And even then, you have Russell Westbrook, who's playing some of the worst basketball of his career. I mean, let's just call it the way it is. The guy's 33, so he's still relatively young. But once Russell Westbrook loses even a touch of his athletic ability, there's his game. It's gone. It's gone. He's shooting 28% from the three. He's shooting 42% from the field. He is turning over the ball 5 times a game. Some of the highest turnover numbers of his career. Obviously, since it actually looks like since one of his better seasons. But I mean, listen, man, it's just at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And clearly, it's not even just that Russell Westbrook and LeBron don't play well together. Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis don't play well together either, which is so weird because you would think that would be at least a match made in heaven, right? I mean, talk about an enticing pick and roll combo. You know, like I thought the rim running potential of Russ and Anthony Davis was terrifying, but Russell Westbrook, he can't do entry passes the greatest. He's just not the greatest half court playmaker. Come playoff time, he's not going to be anything that you really can use for this team. He's going to be a liability. So he's really here for these moments right now. He is here to fill these gaps, to fill these blanks, to get the Lakers healthy and to be in a position to succeed in the playoffs. And at this time, it's not happening.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So if you're LeBron James, what are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of frustration. I'm feeling a lot of disappointment in that this is my championship roster that I'm supposed to win now with. Mm-hmm. I think even too, you know, like if you put LeBron in the shoes he was, you know, even 4 or 5 years ago in Cleveland with that team that got swept, right? Mm-hmm. Remember by the Warriors? Mm-hmm. I think that was a lot of frustration, you know, on his part. But I think he kind of wanted redemption with that, with, you know, of course, we know there's LeBron, the GM as well, mm-hmm. trying to bring a championship core and, you know, bringing guys like Russ in. You know, we know LeBron had something to do with that. Mm-hmm. You know, even Carmelo and, you know, of course, Anthony Davis is a good fit, but even bringing in Anthony Davis to begin with had to have been a more LeBron James-ish move. So I think, you know, he's done a good job as far as bringing individual talent, but I don't know if LeBron actually took time to think, this is my teammate who I have to play with, who I actually have to go on a basketball court with and get stuff done with. I don't know if those questions were running around his head. I think he just thought, oh, good player. It's just kind of how I see it. I have a hard time thinking LeBron really thought through that these are the guys that I can actually win a championship with. I can actually succeed passing the ball to and them passing the ball to me, running pick and roll plays, running, you know, screen downs and pop up plays with. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I think so. All right. So if the playoffs are to start today, which granted, we have a long way to go. More than likely, the Lakers are gonna end up with a better record than this. I would imagine they're gonna end up even still in the top half of the standings in the West rather than the bottom. I mean, let's just be honest, right?
Yeah, a 4th or 5th seed.
However, if the playoffs are to start today, the 4 play-in teams in the Western Conference would be the Portland Trailblazers, the Denver Nuggets, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. To say right now that the Minnesota Timberwolves are currently around them in standing and in the way that they play and overall record is frightening. Here's another thing. The Timberwolves are on a 4-game winning streak. Like they have better momentum right now than the Lakers do. You know what I'm saying? It's just, at the end of the day, I think we just have this assumption that LeBron James is just going to ultimately find a way to get it done. But if you look at the way that the league has developed, and the way that the league has evolved, it just doesn't work that way anymore. I mean,
we could trust that with Cleveland when he was there, but the game has too much talent now, and I think
especially not in the Western
He's already
Conference.
carried that burden. He's already carried that burden for so long too. You can't. Mm-hmm. I think he's too old too to be carrying that.
Yeah, he's not that guy anymore. Let's just be honest. Like watching him play, he's just not that guy. What I can say, and on top of that, you got Golden State who's back. You have the Phoenix Suns who are on a 13-game win streak. You have the Utah Jazz who are always a factor. You have the Clippers who, if Kawhi comes back, we'll see. You got Luka Doncic. You got John Morant. You got Damian Lillard. You got Nikola Jokic. Where's the easy round in that conference? It doesn't exist. It just doesn't. So I definitely think there is reason to question if Frank Vogel is the guy for the job. And if there's any team that can make a blockbuster coaching move in the middle of a season, it is the Los Angeles Lakers. You cannot rule anything out when you have the checkbook and you have the suave and the reputation of the Lakers. However, not even Phil Jackson with Kobe could save this team right now.
Yeah.
So, one last thing really quickly. You and I were kind of talking about the play of Jordan Poole, and how impressed you and I both are by him. And that leads to the question, who do you think is currently the MIP of the league?
I'm going to stick with my guns. Kyle Kuzma.
Kyle Kuzma? Okay.
His play and his result as of right now, questions right now, with the Wizards and him being that guy really on their team, leading the charge, and his 3-point shooting is if I want to say improve. I don't know the exact stats or anything.
Yeah, let me pull it up just out of curiosity.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, all right. So, statistically speaking, it looks like his 3-point shooting is actually a little down from last year, but it's literally 1%. So it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
It looks like points wise, he's really only averaging like 13 points a game. He's averaging about 9 rebounds. So he's definitely stepped it up in the rebounding department. It looks like he's getting to the line. Let me double check that. No, he's really not getting to the line much. I saw field goal attempts and I was like, oh, free throw line. So it looks like he's really doing a lot more throughout the course. I just think the Wizards is a better fit for him.
Yeah, me too.
I think not having that spotlight is just a really good thing for him. So that's where he's looking at right now. I certainly think I'm happy for him. I don't know if statistically it's quite up to Jordan Poole, right? Because Jordan Poole at this point, 18 points a game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 45% from the field. I mean, he's not the most efficient from the 3, but I mean, Jordan Poole can get you a bucket.
Yeah.
He can absolutely get you a bucket. It just looks like he's only going to get better. My personal pick for MIP is not Jordan Poole. It is not even Kyle Kuzma. My personal pick as of right now has to be John Morant.
Yeah.
Because John Morant took the leap.
He did. And I think you even mentioned too that third year leap that players have, right? We saw it with Jason Tatum. We're now seeing it with John Morant. Absolutely. We saw it even with Dwayne Wade too, back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just it's not even just he's averaging 6 more points a game. He's turnover wise, he's about the same. Assist wise, he's about the same. He's getting a little bit more rebounds. He's shooting better from the free throw line. But really, the story is his 3-point shooting. I mean, he is shooting 36% from the three, up 6% from last year. And he is 100% taking that ownership, and he's leading that franchise right now. And just to see a guy go from an all-star caliber player to a superstar caliber player is special to watch.
And he's an athletic freak too. I think that's an underrated part of his game too that people aren't talking about.
Oh yeah, I think honestly it's something we all marvel at, but it's something we don't talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I love his play. I don't think there's another definition of a face of a franchise player than what he's doing in Memphis right now.
I would have to say, as a New Orleans Pelicans fan, I am not feeling great that we drafted Zion instead of John Morant. And
what's interesting about that too,
hindsight's 2020, but
Sean, I strongly agree with that, but I'm really even shaking my head at New Orleans more too, because of course we know the hype that went around Zion in that 2019 March Madness and all of that. But I think with that people forget is that there was draft analysis saying, I think Zion might have the better upside, but John Morant's the better player. People were saying that. People were saying that back in 2019.
Right. I also, with Detroit, people are like, oh, like how is Cade not already the pick? How are you guys you guys are talking about other players? Yeah. I mean, New Orleans pretty much hinted from lottery night. They're drafting Zion. So, listen, David Griffin should not have a job. I'm just going to say it. He should not have a job. But with that, Troy, it is now time from Marquette to go to from Mount Rushmore, wherever we go, with my boy Troy. Troy, where are we heading today?
We're definitely going to Mount Rushmore, but we're also going to Hollywood.
Ooh.
We are doing an interesting take today. I want to keep it NBA, but I don't necessarily think I can fully. We might have to make it basketball, because we are going to make the Mount Rushmore of basketball movies.
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah. I love that. I'm all down. I'm all in. Let me refresh myself on other basketball movies. All right, I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right. I'm going to start with 1997 Spike Lee directed, Ray Allen starring, He Got Game. This movie is kind of a spin-off of Stephon Marbury's life, which is kind of weird because Stephon Marbury and Ray Allen were kind of seen as rivals going into the league in that 96 draft. Were traded for each other, believe it or not. And you got 17, 18-year-old Ray Allen kind of playing the role of Stephon Marbury in this film. He's the character in the movie is Jesus Shuttlesworth. He goes to Lincoln High School, which is a real high school in New York, where Stephon Marbury really went. And he's playing the number 1 rated high school player, and his father is in prison for a crime that he did, but accidental. And he has a chance because the Attorney General of New York is a huge basketball fan, and he wants his son, Jesus Shuttlesworth, to go to his alma mater, which is a fake college called Big State University. And his dad is let off for 7 days to try to convince his son to go to Big State University. And it's kind of about their relationship and a little bit of redemption and definitely kind of the reality of some of the inner city truths of some of these players, and a lot of even the messiness with college recruiting. And it's a great Spike Lee directed movie. He Got Game has to be on my Mount Rushmore.
Absolutely.
You ever
Hey,
seen You've Got Game, Sean?
I've never seen the
So you can't really talk much.
I can't, but hey, Spike Lee, Denzel, I'm sold.
Yeah.
So now my first entry, I just got to get the obvious out of the way. Troy, can I just get out of the way?
I know you're obvious.
Come on and slam if you want to jam. I mean, listen, man, it's Space Jam. Listen, obviously, if you watch it, it's not the highest quality film ever made. I am the first to admit it. However, I will say, Space Jam is one of the most iconic sports films of all time. It
absolutely.
is a pop culture icon. It inspired a generation, myself included. It was one of the it is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen as a kid. It is a movie that brings me joy every single time that I watch it, unlike the new Space Jam. But anyway, I still really love Space Jam. It's the end of the day. It is something that's gonna hold a near and dear place in our heart, in my opinion. It might not be the best, but I think it definitely deserves a spot on this list.
What I like about Space Jam 2 is kind of the history that goes, the backstory with it too, of like, Michael Jordan coming out of retirement and, him dedicating a good couple weeks to a month of his summer dedicated to this. And they brought in like weightlifting equipment to the Hollywood set for him to work out in between shoots and to play one-on-one. And a lot of guys, it was known throughout the league that, hey, the big thing this summer is to meet Michael Jordan out in Hollywood and to play him one-on-one, for him to go get back in basketball shape, help him get back into basketball shape, but to also have your one opportunity to beat Michael Jordan one-on-one and, be a part of a legendary movie set. So, I mean, it was kind of iconic as an NBA player to go fly out to LA and shoot, not necessarily be in the movie, but help Michael Jordan during this time of shooting in the movie and getting him back into basketball shape after forming his body into baseball shape. So that's a cool part about Space Jam that I like to think about too.
Oh, absolutely. It's and also even watching The Last Dance just made it even cooler too. Just seeing like all the pickup games that were surrounding it and just where Michael Jordan was in his life at that time. It's just, it's a piece of basketball history. It really is.
Yeah.
Now, Troy, what is your next edition?
Mine is going to be, I can't necessarily think of the year. It's got to be 2001, 2002 film, Lil Bow Wow, the star.
Yes!
Mike.
Yes, Troy.
Mike is going to be on my list.
Oh my goodness, dude.
Yeah, anyways. So, like Mike, if you have not seen it, it's about Lil Bow Wow is going to be the star. He is going to be a 13-year-old orphan.
Calvin Cambridge
is going to be a 13-year-old orphan in Los Angeles, and he finds a pair of sneakers in his orphanage that have the initials MJ, which stands for Michael Jordan. They're Michael Jordan's old sneakers. And when he puts it on at a halftime show of the Los Angeles Knights, which is a fake team, of course, but emulates the Los Angeles Clippers, he becomes like Mike. He has the scoring, jumping, dunking ability of Michael Jordan, and he receives, as a 13-year-old boy, a 10-day contract for the Los Angeles Knights, and that develops into a one-year contract, and it's about his story, and he has some redemptive stuff, and he's going through some stuff as a kid, especially as an orphan, and it's a great movie. It's a family movie.
Oh, man, it's a better movie than people give credit for. That movie
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that movie's hilarious too.
One of my favorite lines as a Dirk fan is Dirk and Steve Nash find Calvin Cambridge in the locker room, and Dirk says, "Hey Calvin, will you sign this for my niece?" And he says, "Yeah, sure. What's your niece's name?" And he goes, Dirk. So it's good. So like Mike has to be on my list for Mount Rushmore.
Oh, absolutely. Troy, I'm so glad you put that on there. Now, my next edition, I'm gonna be honest. Another basketball movie I've not seen that I'd imagine is probably on your list. is Coach Carter. I've not seen Coach Carter.
100%.
So listen, I just, for whatever reason, I'm going to be straight up. Any basketball movie I've seen growing up, I've had to seek out because my parents, they would only take me to the super kiddie ones. Remember Rebound? Remember Martin Lawrence's Rebound?
I remember Martin Lawrence's Rebound.
Those were the type of movies that my parents would take me to see basketball movie wise. So Coach Carter, that's one that I definitely want to watch. So
yeah, it's really good, Sean.
Troy, next time we hang out, maybe we have a little basketball movie marathon. He got Coach Carter.
Absolutely.
So
Coach Carter has to be up there. Go ahead.
So my final entry is of similar vein, and it is the film 2006 Glory Road. Glory Road, of course, talking about head coach of the Texas Miners, Don Haskins, going and really being the first one of the first coaches to build a team on talent rather than race. College basketball was predominantly white, so for him to recruit and be the first team to start 5 black players in a country that has so as far as what that stands for, Texas Western being not the biggest program these days, but also just how much significance that has, how recent that is in the grand scheme of things, but also let's be honest, it's really just Remember the Titans, but for basketball. But hey, Remember the Titans is a great movie, and so is Glory Road. So
yes.
That's when I've even gone back and watched. I'm like, wow, that really is just Remember the Titans, but incredible movie.
Yeah, those two were my last two on my list too, so I don't have to really even explain myself. But with Coach Carter, I think it's really important for everyone to see that. I think work ethic, I think integrity, I think character building are all life lessons that everyone and anyone should hold true to themselves and to emulate in their lives. And I think Coach Carter does a great job of bringing that out. And like you said, the history with that team and Glory Road really brings out that too. So both, I think, have to be at least maybe even the top 2. We had fun with the first couple, but definitely check out Coach Carter and Glory Road for those who haven't. So
absolutely. And I couldn't have said it any better, Troy. That is very well put. And I think that is a great way to end this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Again, you can catch us each and every week here on this channel. If you like this podcast, if you want to check out other stuff we do here from Half Court, be sure to click that subscribe button. Be sure to share with your friends, leave us a positive rating, and join the conversation with us on Twitter, following myself at Sean Half Court and following Troy at Troy3044. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Have a safe holiday weekend, and we will catch you next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.